Good to have you back with us, Professor. We know that the Hezbollah leader Hassan Nasrallah in the past has warned that any attack on the Lebanese capital Beirut would elicit a similar response from Hezbollah on Tel Aviv. What response are you expecting from the Iranian-backed group?
Well, as I understand it, they've already launched 20 missiles, although I don't think they inflicted much damage. I see it as a little bit akin to the Israeli attack on Damascus and the Iranian response, in that, whatever the response is, it'll be highly targeted towards military targets, almost for the demonstration effect of saying, look, we follow international law more than you do. There will be a heavy defense, including a U.S. and UK assisted defense of Israel, that will minimize the damage. And then the question is, do the two sides just sort of call it off at that point, say that they inflicted the pain they wanted to inflict and sent the messages they wanted to send, or do things continue to spiral? I mean, it's been clear that since October 7th, neither side wants a fully escalated conflict. Also, Iran doesn't want Hezbollah to send all its missiles into Israel for several reasons, including that missile battery in Lebanon is the major Iranian hedge against a major Israeli attack on Iran. So there are sort of many dimensions to this and many strategic things going on. Of course, the Americans are talking to all sides in this through their Lebanon envoy and others. But I really believe that the U.S. effort to temper the Israeli response and others' efforts to temper the response to that are in play now and will limit the damage. Let me just add one point, which I didn't hear in your report as much, is there are 74 civilian casualties in this attack. So I think it'll be hard for the Lebanese to say, oh, it was just 3 civilians and maybe they hit their military target. When 74 people are injured, that is a very serious attack on Lebanese sovereignty and a big violation of international law.
Now, Israel has justified the strike on Beirut, saying that it had taken out the Hezbollah commander, Shukr. That's still in doubt for now because Lebanese officials haven't been able to confirm that. But was Hezbollah responsible for Saturday's attack on the occupied Golan Heights, which Israel claims and is the basis of this strike?
First of all, let me say that Hadith news agency from Saudi Arabia is reporting that he's dead and surrounded by a security cordon. Previously, it was reported that he was injured. Obviously, that's one news agency, and we'll find out more in the coming hours and days. But in terms of the responsibility, I've looked at it. I've looked at all the sources and the various claims, and there's several theories of what could have happened, but I think it's important that senior American and Israeli officials have said, not publicly, but in private conversations, that they know that the target of Hezbollah was not this town and not this soccer field, but a military installation 3 kilometers away. There had been many other hits that day. Most of the arguments against Hezbollah's authorship of the attack are about the size of the crater, which isn't really ringing true, or that it was the Iron Dome defense, which isn't ringing true. Of course, the Americans not just have evidence on the ground of the remnants, but they track a lot of these missiles. The American satellites, all this intelligence gathering that they do, they know who's shooting what at what most of the time, even though they're reluctant to blame Israel for a lot of things. They'll be quick to blame, Hezbollah if the evidence is there. So the Americans, I think, will probably be providing some evidence in the coming days. But regardless, there's no lost love between American and Fuad Shukr. There won't be much of a positive reaction to the Americans to in favor of, in the other sense that maybe Lebanon is a victim here and that sort of thing. But the U.S. does want to tamp things down. So anything they can do to restrain the Israelis and restrain the Hezbollah response is good for everybody involved.
You mentioned that you're a little doubtful that this could lead to a full-scale war between Israel and Hezbollah, but we know in recent weeks the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu had warned that such an incident could in fact occur. We know the last time that the two sides engaged in a full-scale war was back in 2006. What do you think is the truth here? Is Israel in a position to be engaged on another front, in this case against Hezbollah?
Yeah, I think the arguments that Israel is beaten and weak and can't do much are not very true. I also think the arguments that Hezbollah really doesn't have much that they can attack Israel with that would do much damage also isn't true. We wouldn't have 160,000 people, evacuated from the south of Lebanon and the north of Israel if there wasn't real damage the two sides could inflict on each other. I think the main reasons that neither side wants a major conflict are political more than military. You know that there's not only been the 2006 war, but there was the 2000 to 2006 war and the 1985 to 2000 war in southern Lebanon. And nobody really wants to go back to that. I'm surprised how many Israelis and Lebanese I hear talking about the river, and the 2006 accord, which was never fully implemented, and the two sides pulling back. So, as much as there's a lot of bluster and threats on both sides, which you are completely accurately reporting and need to point out, there are as strong forces to try to limit this, and this long history going back to 1985 of conflict that doesn't lead to much good.
Okay, Professor William Lawrence, we'll have to leave it there, but thank you as always for joining us on the program.